Today's lesson is Istanbul, where East meets West. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Helen.
And we're going to continue with our trip to Istanbul, which is a big city in Turkey. And, of course, Turkey has lots of other things to see, but, of course, lots of people will spend a lot of time in Istanbul because it is the biggest city in Turkey. I think the capital of Turkey is actually Ankara, but Istanbul is a popular tourist destination, and it sits right on the boundary between Europe and Asia. And last time we talked about some of the things you can go check out in Istanbul.
Right, we saw that Istanbul is a city that's loaded with history and culture because it is the home of the iconic Hagia Sophia, which is an architectural masterpiece that was once a church, and then it became a mosque, and then a museum, and back to a mosque. And we also looked at the Blue Mosque.
Yep, it's also known as the Sultan Ahmad Mosque. It was built to impress other people. It was a demonstration of the power of the Ottoman Empire, and it's got this unique blue-tiled interior. It's got 13 domes, and it's got 6 minarets, so it's certainly an impressive structure. And there are other things to check out in Istanbul as well, which we're going to talk about in today's program. So without any further delay, let's listen to the first part and talk about something called the Topkapi Palace.
Another jewel of Istanbul is the majestic Topkapi Palace. Once the residence of Ottoman sultans, this huge palace complex offers a look into the luxurious lifestyles of those long-ago Ottoman rulers. You can marvel at its grand imperial gate, wander through its lovely gardens, and explore its many chambers and apartments, including the harem, which housed the royal family.
大家好。第一部分我们来介绍形容词 majestic， 它的意思是雄伟的、壮丽的或是威严的。例如 The explorers took photos of the area's majestic beauty. 那位探险者拍摄了那个地区雄伟美景的照片。又或者说 Northern California is home to majestic redwood forests. 在北加州有一大片壮丽的红木森林。接下来我们看到动词 marvel，它的意思是大为赞叹或是惊讶不已。例如 The audience marveled at the magician's tricks. 观众对那位魔术师的把戏大为赞叹。又或者说 Julie marveled at the majesty of the castle. Julie 对这座城堡的宏伟庄严赞叹不已。再来我们看到名词 chamber， 这个单字的意思是私人房间。在旧式用法中，尤其是指卧房或是有特殊用途的房间，也可以是大会议室的意思。例如 The captured criminal was kept in a chamber for questioning. 遭到逮捕的罪犯被留置在一个房间里接受盘问。或是 Historians believe the ancient building was used as a burial chamber. 历史学家相信这座古老的建筑曾被用作墓室。
So as we mentioned before, we already looked at some important structures in Istanbul, the Hagia Sophia and the Sultan Ahmet Mosque. Now, another jewel of Istanbul is the majestic Topkapi Palace. We refer to the palace as a jewel because a jewel is something that's very precious, something that's expensive, that's luxurious, and we're inferring that the Topkapi Palace is like a jewel, and it is also majestic. Something that is majestic is very impressive, and it's also very beautiful and big.
Right, and back to the word jewel here, you could also say gem. They all refer to precious stones like a diamond, an emerald, a ruby, a sapphire, etc. Those are all jewels or gems. So you could say it's another gem of Istanbul. It's another jewel. It's got this majestic Topkapi Palace. So majestic means it's really great, it's really huge, it's impressive, It has a lot of dignity, and once the residence of Ottoman sultans, this huge palace complex offers a look into the luxurious lifestyles of those long ago Ottoman rulers. So if you talk about rulers in the Islam world, they're often called sultans. One time, my wife and I took a trip to Indonesia. We went to Yogyakarta and took a tour of the Sultan's palace there, which was quite impressive. And in this particular case, we're talking about Ottoman sultans who lived in this structure. They were residents there in that structure. And it offers a look into the luxurious lifestyles of the people who lived a long time ago. If something's luxurious, it has a lot of luxury, a lot of expensive items in there. And the sultans certainly lived like kings, or I should say the sultans lived like sultans.
Right, so their lifestyles were very expensive, full of expensive things and beautiful things and comfort. That's how they lived. And you can get a taste of that by visiting the Topkapi Palace. You can marvel at its grand imperial gate, wander through its lovely gardens, and explore its many chambers and apartments, including the harem, which housed the royal family. So when you're at the Topkapi Palace, the first thing you can do, because you're about to enter it, is to marvel at its grand imperial gate. When you marvel at something, you look at it and then you feel or express great surprise or admiration because of the way it is, because it's beautiful or it's huge, it's grand. And that's the impression that you might get. You might marvel at the Grand Imperial Gate when you see it. And this gate is described as being an imperial gate. So imperial here is a word that relates to an empire or an emperor. So this gate is the gate of the empire or the emperor.
Exactly. So you could check out that imperial gate. You could also wander through the lovely gardens in this structure. You could also explore its many chambers, which are rooms in various places in this structure. And you could also go to the apartments, which are separate living areas for different kinds of people. And those apartments or those chambers include the harem, which housed the royal family. Now, when we see the word harem, we often think of the area of a temple or a building or something where all the ladies live. That's the harem. But in this particular case, we're describing the harem as the place where the royal family lived. Here we've got the word house as a verb. That just means to provide shelter or housing for someone. So yes, this harem housed the royal family. In other words, the royal family lived in that harem.
Yes, and a word about the word chamber. So chambers here indeed means room. It can simply mean a room, but it also has many different meanings historically. So in the past, chamber was used to mean bedroom, such as the king's chambers. That would be the king's bedroom. And it can also mean a room that's used for special purposes. For instance, you can talk about the gas chamber if you're talking about the Holocaust and how so many people were killed, died in the gas chamber.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the second part. Let's listen to it first.
A more hidden gem is the Basilica Cistern. This ancient reservoir is actually located underground, beneath the city, and dates back to the 6th century. Raised platforms allow visitors to view the cisterns row upon row of massive stone columns as they take in the dark atmosphere of the dimly lit chamber.
第二部分我们看到单字 reservoir， 它是名词，指的是蓄水池或是水库。例如 It hasn't rained in weeks and our reservoirs are running low. 已经好几周没有下雨了，我们蓄水池的水位很低。或是After the rainy season, the reservoir was nearly filled to capacity. 雨季过后，水库几乎要满了。
So the Topkapi Palace may have been easy to find, but there are also other places in Istanbul that are worth visiting that may not be so easy to find. A more hidden gem is the Basilica Cistern. Now here we have the word gem, and as Roger mentioned before when we were talking about the Topkapi Palace, jewel, we mentioned that the Topkapi Palace was a jewel of Istanbul, that another word for jewel could be gem. A gem, of course, is a beautiful stone, like a diamond, and gem is often used figuratively to describe a place that's very beautiful or valuable, a thing, or even a person. You can say that a person is a gem. Now, here we're talking about the Basilica Cistern, which is a gem because it's really worth seeing, but it's more hidden because it's not open to plain sight.
Right, so a basilica, of course, does refer to a special kind of building. I believe it came from the Roman Empire, but later it can become some kind of religious structure. And a cistern, of course, is a place where we store water. This ancient reservoir is actually located underground beneath the city and dates back to the 6th century. So the 6th century refers to the 700s in the Gregorian calendar. And we're again describing this as a reservoir, which is a place where water is kept. And of course, here in Taiwan, we've got lots of reservoirs and we keep an eye on them because sometimes we have droughts and all the water in the reservoirs dry up and we have to ration water and we have to wait for the next typhoon to come along and fill them all up again. And this particular reservoir is located underground. It's under the city and it's really old. It comes from the 700s or the 6th century.
But how do you go to visit it as a tourist? Well, raised platforms allow visitors to view the cisterns row upon row of massive stone columns as they take in the dark atmosphere of the dimly lit chamber. So here again we have the word chamber, and here it means basically just a room, an underground room in which there is this cistern, and this room is dark because it's underground, and the cistern has massive stone columns, and not just one, but many rows of columns. And the phrase row upon row just emphasizes how many rows there are or how many columns there are.
Right, and of course a platform is something you can stand on that is higher than the area around it. Like when you take a train here in Taiwan, you will stand on the platform waiting for your train, and you'll see row upon row of these massive stone columns. You could also say row after row, just lots of rows of these stone columns. And of course, if you're enjoying this and you're impressed by that sight, you can take in the dark atmosphere of this dimly lit chamber. If you take in something, you enjoy that thing. What did you do on Saturday? Well, we went to the theater and took in a movie. We enjoyed a movie. We watched a movie. We had a good time eating popcorn and hot dogs and stuff like that. And here, of course, you can take in the atmosphere. You can enjoy it. You can look at it because it's dimly lit there. If something's dimly lit, it's not very bright. So you may need to stand around for a few minutes to let your eyes get used to the darkness.
That's right. So if you go to the Basilica Cistern, you'll be going underground and you'll be looking at an ancient reservoir, which is where water was kept. And you'll also see row upon row of massive stone columns as you stand on this platform, taking in everything in a dimly lit chamber. That sounds pretty exciting to me.
It does to me as well. I can't wait to see it with my very own eyes. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's move on now and talk about a body of water in Istanbul called the Bosporus Strait.
Finally, a visit to Istanbul would not be complete without experiencing the Bosporus Strait. This natural channel separates Europe from Asia and offers spectacular views of the city, which spreads far out from it on both shores. Crossing it will take you from one continent to the other, but you'll still be in Istanbul. A place where East literally meets West, Istanbul is a city like no other. With its unique blend of history, culture, and architecture, it truly deserves its reputation as a one-of-a-kind destination.
第三部分我们看到片语 like no other， 指的是十分特别的或是与众不同的。举例来说，Simon thought that the art exhibit was an experience like no other. Simon 觉得这场美术展是一个十分特别的体验。再举一个例子 Woodstock was a music festival like no other. 胡士陀音乐节是个与众不同的音乐节。接下来我们看到动词 deserve， 它的意思是应得或是值得。例如 Our team deserved to win after all the hard work. 在付出所有的努力后，我们这一队值得得到胜利。最后我们看到名词 reputation， 这个单字的意思是名声或是声誉。例如 Bob has an honest reputation, so I feel comfortable doing business with him. Bob 有着诚信的名声，所以跟他做生意我感到很安心。或是 The jewelry store has a very good reputation, so you can trust them. 这家珠宝店有良好的信誉，所以你可以信任他们。
Finally, a visit to Istanbul would not be complete without experiencing the Bosporus Strait. So, if you're going to visit Istanbul, then your visit will not be complete, which means that you will not have seen everything that you should have seen if you don't visit the Bosporus Strait. Now, what is the Bosporus Strait?
Well, a strait, of course, is a body of water between one land mass and another. The most prominent example we have here is the Taiwan Strait, which is the body of water between mainland China and Taiwan. But here, of course, we're in Istanbul, and there's this body of water there called the Bosporus Strait. Let's describe it here. It says, this natural channel separates Europe from Asia and offers spectacular views of the city, which spreads far out from it on both shores. So again, this is a body of water that's in Istanbul, and it separates two areas of land. It actually separates Europe from Asia. So on one side of the strait is Europe, and the other side of the strait is Asia. So that would be quite significant if you go there and you look at the scenery and you realize that you can see Asia and Europe at the same time. So it's a natural channel. Of course, it's not artificial, and it offers spectacular views of the city. So if something's spectacular, it's really amazing to look at.
Yes, spectacular means very impressive. I could say that about Jade Mountain here in Taiwan. Jade Mountain offers spectacular scenery. So if you're going to cross the Bosporus Strait, you'll be going from one continent to another. You'll actually be going from Europe to Asia or vice versa, but you're still in Istanbul. So it is quite spectacular, not just as a sight, but also conceptually, also as an idea that you're going between continents while remaining in the same city.
Now let's move on now to the final paragraph here. It says, a place where east literally meets west, Istanbul is a city like no other. So indeed, we're talking about this place where east meets west. Sometimes we think of that as being more of a concept, where east meets west. It could be just an area where you have western things and eastern things together. So yeah, it's a mix of those two cultures in the same place, but that's more of a concept. But here we're talking about the actual difference between East and West, and it really is. You've got the East, which is Asia, and you've got the West, which is Europe. That means it's a literal boundary between those two continents. It's real. It's not conceptual.
Right. So literally basically means according to the real or original meaning of a word or expression. So I could say, for instance, I have a dozen pair of shoes that I never wear. And the person I'm talking to might ask, do you mean that literally? Do you really have a dozen pair of shoes, or are you just exaggerating? And I say, yes, literally. I'm not exaggerating. I really have a dozen pair of shoes that I never wear.
Interesting. I think a lot of people could say that they've got more clothes or shoes that they need. You can donate them, of course. But in any case, we're just talking about Istanbul as being a place where East really meets West. It happens for real, and it's a city like no other. It's very unique. It's very special.
Right. So something that is like no other just means that it's unique, as Roger mentioned. And in closing, we can say that with its unique blend of history, culture, and architecture, it truly deserves its reputation as a one-of-a-kind destination. So first of all, destination is a place that you go to. We could say that there are many tourist destinations destinations in the world, Istanbul is definitely a tourist destination, a place where tourists go to. Tokyo is another popular modern tourist destination. But this destination is one of a kind, which means that there is no other like it. And it's earned a reputation as being a one-of-a-kind destination. Reputation here basically means the opinion that other people have or that people have about someone or something based on past experience. So I could say, this teacher has a reputation for being a tough grader. Or you could say, the teacher has a reputation as a tough grader because other students have taken her classes and they know that.
Now, it's October now, so it might start getting cold in Turkey now, but you might have enough fall weather to go there and enjoy the place before it gets too cold during the winter. So talk to your travel agent right now. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Now we need to hear from Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分介绍了地下水宫殿，他写到高起的平台让游客可以观赏水宫殿一排排巨大的石柱。那文中是用 allow visitors to view 来表达让游客可以观赏什么什么。好，那这边我们来补充一下 allow somebody to 加原形动词的用法。好，首先这个动词 allow 它有允许准许的意思，那常会用 allow somebody to 加原形动词来表达允许某人做某事，或者是用被动语态 somebody be allowed to 加原形动词，那就是表达某人被允许做某事。像 You're not allowed to take photos here， 这里禁止拍照。好，再来我们还可以用 allow somebody to 加原形动词去表达让某人得以怎么样怎么样，这就像课文里面的用法。我们也来造个例句 This app allows you to create your own emoji。 这款应用程式让你可以创造自己的表情符号。好，那顺便补充一下片语动词 allow for 的用法。好，我们来看看，首先 allow for 它可以表达使变得有可能，像 The new system allows for more efficient data processing。 新的系统让资料处理更有效率。好，那么第二个可以用 allow for 去表达考量到什么什么，把什么计算在内，像 Please arrive early, allowing for traffic and parking。 就是说你要把这个交通状况还有停车把它考量在内嘛，所以考量到交通状况以及停车，请提早抵达。好，那我们接着看到课文第三部分的第一句，他说 Finally, a visit to Istanbul would not be complete without experiencing the Bosphorus Strait。 最后如果没有去过博斯普鲁斯海峡，这趟伊斯坦堡之旅就不算完整了。好，那这边用到的句型是主词加上 would not be complete without 名词或动名词，意思就是说没有什么就不完整，一定要有什么什么才行。那这是双重否定的句型，它有两个否定词，有 not 跟 without， 然后就会用来强调出肯定的语气。我们也可以把它写作 no 什么什么 would be complete without 名词或动名词。所以我们这个课文句子你也可以把它改写成 Finally, no visit to Istanbul would be complete without experiencing the Bosphorus Strait。 好，那我们来造一组例句，就是像 No birthday cake would be complete without candles， 也可以说 A birthday cake would not be complete without candles。 生日蛋糕少了蜡烛就不完整了，也就是说生日蛋糕一定要有蜡烛才行。好啦，那以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Luxurious. Maria booked a room at a luxurious hotel for her vacation. Chamber. Working at a desk in the quiet chamber, the author was able to complete his new novel. Reservoir. During the dry season, the reservoir is an important source of clean water for the small town. Spectacular. Each year, the local government puts on a spectacular display of fireworks to celebrate New Year's Eve. Deserve. After all her hard work, Jackie certainly deserved her recent promotion. Reputation. Jeremy's rude and selfish behavior has given him a bad reputation among his classmates. Destination. Mr. Carton has chosen Italy as his next vacation destination.
Discussion starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today. The question is, which of the attractions mentioned in the article would you be most interested in seeing if you were to visit Istanbul, and why?
Well, the first place I would visit would be the Hagia Sophia. I'd want to check that out first because it has such a long history.
Well, I would like to go to the Hagia Sophia because I've seen pictures of those mosaics in mosques all over the world, and I like that sort of thing. I like looking at art on walls, murals, and things like that. So I definitely want to check out the mosque.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Helen.
I am Roger.
See you next time.